3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Hey everyone, it's Charlie here with Spec Moto again, back for another tech spec bike test video. Today we're checking out the 2025 Honda CRF450R. Lucky for us, one came in stock at our local dealer, Barnes Power Sports. We gave them a call and we went down and picked it up. This is going to be my personal bike for the next couple months here, so super pumped. Spent the first day here out at Wild Rose Motocross track on the hill track, which is kind of like a vet style track, not a ton of huge jumps. Temperature is pretty hot today, so they went a little heavy with the water to start off, so things were a little bit wet and slippery to get going, but the track came around pretty good. Some good ruts, a couple bumps, things to get a good feel for the bike for a first impression today. So just finished up, got back to the shop here, and overall had a great day. Running through some of the changes that the bike did, that Honda did on the bike is the main thing they were trying to accomplish was the Honda 450 has had a bit of a reputation for being a bit of like a twitchy, unstable, unpredictable bike the last couple of years. I spent some time on the 2021 and 2022 model specifically, which was the outgoing chassis. 23 and 24 weren't a lot of updates, so pretty similar bike. And I can say for sure that some of these changes they've made have gone in the right direction in those departments, trying to get the bike a little more comfortable and stable. It was really good today. I really enjoyed myself. So running through some of the changes, the biggest change overall is the main frame on the bike. They've done a lot of work on the chassis to improve the stability and the comfort on the bike. Contrary to what a lot of people believed, thinking that the old bike was too rigid, the engineers at Honda actually found out that the bike was too soft in the frame department, and it was causing the bike to bind up, load up, and then it would release at some point, and that would give you that harsh, sharp kind of feel in your handlebars in the seat area coming out of turns through some of the rougher, choppier sections. So going to work, they increased the rigidity of the frame a fair amount, which again kind of goes against what you would think the bike needed before. But the idea is to hold the bike a little more stable, not be able to flex to that point where it loads up and reacts in a negative way. So they claim the frame is 70% different, 70% new. So definitely a different feel than what Hondas have traditionally have. The next thing that they also went with the same direction was on the Showa forks, new upper and lower fork tubes that are more rigid as well. So the main purpose on that is as you hit a bump going forward with the bike, the fork doesn't always travel through the lower tube into the upper tube. You have a lot of force flexing in on the front forks and you'll get a binding sensation. So the upper and lower tubes are stiffer to prevent that binding sensation, so the fork actually runs on a more true plane with the inner and outer tubes. Next up that we had written down here was a new front brake caliper. Honda used their race master cylinder and caliper as like a reference point of what to do on the new production brake. So two different size pistons in there, definitely better. The old brake had plenty of power, but it was pretty on-off, a little notchy feeling. When you'd come into a turn and you grab the front brake, you'd kind of chirp it and it would load the front end up really quickly. Where this one has just as much power, maybe more, but much more progressive. So similar to a Brembo brake, if you're familiar with that on some other models, it's definitely a more progressive, stronger brake that way. So really happy with how that felt. Along with the front fork change, they moved to their newest generation Showa shock and a different linkage system underneath with a new leverage ratio to complement the new frame and suspension changes and stuff like that. New exhaust system on the bike. The motor itself is very similar to the outgoing bike, but they've lengthened the exhaust head pipe and they have it listed as a more robust muffler, just a little bit heavier duty, more packing in there, stuff like that. So the longer head pipe typically gives you a little more bottom and mid style power, and then the packing and beefing up of the muffler itself creates a little more back pressure, which helps with the top end and over rev of the bike. All new bodywork and new airbox system on this bike. We have a video earlier of taking the cover off, checking out the air filter and putting everything back together. It does still require two 8mm bolts to access the air filter. So that was a little bit of I wouldn't say a bummer. It's not a huge deal, but compared to some of the other brands that are toolless and very simple to work on, having to pull out tools for the air filter is a little bit outdated feeling at this point. On the track, like I said, we rode the hill track, faster pace, lots of flowy turns, nothing too crazy for big jumps or obstacles. And rolling out onto the track today, the first thing that I noticed, the track was super soft, so I didn't get a great impression of like how the bike was handling or anything like that. We had to wait for the track to break in, but the motor really stood out. I'm coming off of a 2024 Yamaha YZ450, which is known to have a great motor as well. And comparing the two bikes, I would say the total output is very similar. The Yamaha definitely has a bit more of like a bark sensation off idle, more response, a little bit quicker rev coming out of a turn. The Yamaha is smoother than the previous bike, but this Honda is definitely on another level. It's way smoother, way torquier, super broad feeling. Like it was very easy to ride, and in the deep soil, it had nothing hold it back or load it up. It really pulled through anything, and it was like really surprising how much power the bike had off the bat. I was pleasantly surprised. The mapping, everything like that, we tried a couple of the different engine maps. Definitely noticed a difference between the two, not anything crazy. Really clean running, no hesitation or anything like that. So super happy with that. The new front forks and suspension in general, the front forks and rear shock, once the track broke in and got some bumps and ruts and things like that, got a better impression. Definitely more of like a comfort-based plush setting. Very smooth and plush initially. Really comfortable coming out of some of the rust. There was a little bit of that kind of staircase chop to load up the rear end and stuff like that. And nothing compared to the 2021 and 2022 bikes that I had, that you definitely felt a sharp feel through the seat and through the chassis. Much more comfortable on the suspension side of things. So that was great. Being a little bit bigger and aggressive rider, it was definitely too soft for me. There was a couple sections on the track I was able to really bottom out the forks. You almost had that audible clunk sensation. So definitely too soft for me. I'll be having to address that, but that's not a huge deal and pretty typical for someone my size on any production bike. Once the track again got kind of beat up a bit more and ridden in, definitely noticed that this bike is much more stable and comfortable on high speed. There was a long right-hand turn today that you were on the edge of the tire for, it feels like 20 seconds, and you're just working your way through a long sweeping turn up on the foot pegs, and super comfortable, predictable, totally trusted the bike going through that kind of stuff. Didn't have any of that twitchy sensation that the previous Honda model has here and there, but yeah, overall very stable, very comfortable. I was really pumped with the bike, knowing that I'm going to get to spend some time on it here the next couple months. The new front brake, definitely an improvement for me. Like I said, it's not as twitchy, not as touchy, a little bit more progressive nature, so that was great. The Honda does have a hydraulic clutch, so coming off my previous bike that was a cable clutch model, the Honda has a much nicer feel, in my opinion, than the Brembo hydraulic clutch. I find the other units a little bit more on-off when you go to let the lever out, especially on starts and coming out of turns. When you go to kind of feed the clutch, feed the power out, it doesn't have much of that slipping cable feel that you can feed the power smoothly, where the Honda Nissan unit is very nice. It feels like a cable clutch on the track. It feeds the power out very nice, so I was super stoked with that. Stock gearing, we were super happy with today. Able to run third gear in pretty much all the turns that were a little bit faster, which was awesome. Some of the tighter turns we did go down to second, but second gear doesn't run out super quickly or anything like that. So gearing, I was super pumped on that. No, not looking to change that at this point. Third gear was able to pull lots of the track, which is where I like to spend most of my time, is third gear coming out of turns. If I can pull it on a bike, it's a little smoother and lets you set up for the next section without having to grab that gear right away. So yeah, overall, super pumped with it. Looking forward to spending some more time, running through some pros and cons on the bike just in general. More stable, more comfortable. That's the big 2 thumbs up for me on this bike so far. Anyone that's ridden a Honda in the past knows that they have that Honda feel, which kind of comes with that really aggressive handling characteristic, great cornering, but you sacrifice some stability. This bike is definitely more stable, more comfortable, more confidence inspiring on fast-paced stuff, and still maintains a great cornering characteristic. So I'm super happy with that. Looking forward to spending some more time on the bike. Great ergonomics overall. When you sit on a Honda, the seat, foot pegs to handlebars, all that kind of stuff feels the way it should. I'm a little bit taller, being 6'2", so we moved the handlebar mounts to the front hole position and rotated the mounts back. So position 3 out of the 4 options. Great motor, super pumped with that. Tons of power, really easy to ride, really manageable. A lot of people have that mentality of, I think a 450 is too much for me. A bike like this definitely lets those people get into that power without being super timid and afraid of that delivery that can be more aggressive on some other brands. So super pumped with that. Really smooth delivery, easy to manage while still having a lot of power behind it. The front brake, like I said, big improvement for me. I'm pretty, like I ride, I'd say 80% with my front brake. I hardly wear through rear brake pads myself. So having a powerful front brake that doesn't lock the wheel up really easily is great. So much more comparable to some of the other premium brake brands that are available. So super stoked with that. Running through some of the cons, things that I'm going to look to change on the bike. Stock grips are pretty uncomfortable. Ended up kind of chewing up my hands a little more than normal today. A little bit big in diameter. So I'll be changing that out to just a preference thing, a grip that I normally run. The foot pegs, today was soft enough and some of the ruts got deep that when the foot pegs get pushed up through a rut, sometimes the mud will pack in there and end up sticking the foot peg up more than some of the other models I've experienced on. So I'll probably be upgrading some aftermarket foot pegs for a little more grip on the boot and to prevent packing up with mud as much. The stock seat cover looks cool. The Honda branding, everything's nice when they're fresh, but without having any sort of traction ribs or anything like that, gripper material as much, you definitely find yourself slipping around when you're used to having a gripper seat cover. So that's going to be for sure on the first list of mods that we're going to do to the bike. Overall, the suspension, like I said, comfortable, but definitely too soft for me. I'm going to be addressing that right away. That's definitely number one on the list for myself, is to get a little bit more of a performance-based setting in there, stiffer spring rate, hold the bike up in the travel a little bit more when you're coming into some of the rough sections aggressively. And then, like I said, the airbox, it's really easy to get into. It is only 2 bolts, but compared to some of the other models on the market now, you can definitely get something that's toolless and works really well. There's other brands that have proven that. So not a huge deal, just kind of like it's a bit of a bummer seeing that you're still having to pull out tools to change an air filter every time. Closing out, overall, the bike is much improved coming from the previous model Hondas. I'm super happy with it. I'm like I came off the track today and I was like, sometimes you're like, I'm going to be stuck with this for a bit, where I was super pumped knowing that I get to spend some time on this bike going forward. More comfortable, more stable, still corners really well. 2 thumbs up for all that. Really easy bike to just jump on. Coming from any other brand, you're going to feel comfortable right away on a Honda. The ergonomics have that feel. Hondas are renowned for having that comfortable feel. With a couple little things, modifications, I think this is going to be a great bike for myself going forward. Really easy motor to ride with lots of power behind it, so that's awesome as well. I'm not really looking to add any sort of exhaust or ECU or anything at this point. The bike runs really strong, really clean right off the bat, so that's great. Yeah, overall, super pumped, ready to get some more time on it. Going to spend the next couple months here, like I said, on this bike. We will try a few different products and pieces on it as we go. But yeah, overall, for the first impression, much improved. Honda's definitely going in a direction that I think the consumer level rider is going to be much happier with. More comfort, more stability, really good stuff. So thanks a lot for checking out the video. We hope you enjoy it. And yeah, we'll see you on the next Tech Spec video. Have a great day.
Bones with that, simply rattling your bone.